Waitress pays for customer's meal. Hours later, 3 limousines arrive at the restaurant. Ashley watched as the elderly gentleman counted his coins for the 3rd time, his hands trembling as he searched for more money in the pockets of his worn-out coat. The coffee and toast cost just $12, but she knew the man didn't even have that. Without hesitation, the 26-year-old waitress walked to the register and discreetly slipped in a $20 bill from her own tips. It was the 5th time that month she'd done this for the same customer. "Thank you, dear," the man murmured, his voice thick with emotion, lowering his eyes in shame. "No need to thank me, Mr. Walter. Come back any time," Ashley replied with a genuine smile. The manager, Richard, watched everything from the kitchen, shaking his head in disapproval. As soon as the old man left, he approached the waitress, his face red with anger. "Ashley, how many times do I have to tell you? You can't keep paying for customers' meals. This is a business, not a charity." "But Mr. Richard, it's just coffee. Didn't you see how embarrassed he was?" "I don't care. If you do this again, you're fired. And don't think I'm not keeping count. That's 5 times just this month." The young woman lowered her head, feeling the weight of her co-workers' stares. She had worked at Southern Comfort for 3 years and had never been scolded before, but she couldn't stand seeing someone in need without helping. The restaurant was in downtown Savannah, a historic town in Georgia, known for its colonial churches and the hospitality of its people. The establishment had been in the same spot for 20 years, serving home-style meals to locals and tourists alike. As Ashley bent down to clean a table, she noticed something on the floor. It was a hand-embroidered handkerchief with the initials WB in golden thread. It must have fallen from Mr. Walter's pocket. She carefully tucked it into her purse, determined to return it the next day. The following morning, right at 7 o'clock, the elderly man appeared at the restaurant's door. Ashley approached him with the handkerchief in hand. "Mr. Walter, you dropped this yesterday," she said, holding out the embroidered cloth. The man took it gently, as if it were something precious. For a moment, his eyes shone with an emotion Ashley couldn't quite place. "Keep it, dear. It's a memento from my late mother. I want it to be in good hands." "But I can't accept this. It's beautiful. It must mean a lot to you." "That's exactly why I want you to have it. Good people deserve good things." Before Ashley could protest again, a cold voice cut in behind her. It was Karen, the restaurant owner's daughter, who had arrived from New York the previous month to take over the business. "What's going on here?" asked the impeccably dressed 40-year-old, her face etched with superiority. "I was just returning something he left behind yesterday," Ashley explained. Karen looked the old man up and down with disdain, taking in his simple clothes and humble appearance. "I hope you're not giving out handouts again, Ashley. I've already spoken to my father about your habit of playing the Good Samaritan with street beggars." Mr. Walter stiffened at the word beggar. Ashley felt a surge of indignation. "He's not a beggar. He's a customer like anyone else and deserves respect." "Customer?" Karen scoffed. "Customers pay their bills. This one lives off the favors you do for him, if he even pays at all." "That's not true," Ashley protested, but her voice was cut off by Mr. Walter. "The young lady is right," he said with quiet dignity. "I shouldn't be here inconveniencing your staff. I apologize for the trouble." The old man turned toward the door, but Karen wasn't finished. "And don't come back. This is a respectable establishment, not a shelter for deadbeats." That was the last straw for Ashley. She stepped between Karen and Mr. Walter, fists clenched. "You have no right to treat anyone like that. This man has more manners and dignity than you'll ever have." "How dare you challenge me? You're fired. Grab your things and get out." "No, wait," Mr. Walter intervened. "It's my fault. Don't let her lose her job because of me." But Karen had already made up her mind. Loudly, so everyone in the restaurant could hear, she announced, "Ashley Wilson is fired for insubordination and for giving free food to bums. Someone who doesn't respect the company's money doesn't deserve to work here." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing, Ashley felt tears streaming down her face, but it wasn't just about losing her job. It was the humiliation they had put Mr. Walter through. The elderly man approached her and whispered, "I'm so sorry, dear, you have a heart of gold, but the world doesn't always value that." After leaving the restaurant, Ashley walked through the historic streets of Savannah, trying to process what had happened. She'd been working since she was 16 to support her daughter Emma, now 14. Without a job, how would she pay the rent for their small apartment? When she got home, she found Emma studying at the kitchen table. The teenager immediately noticed her mother's weary expression. "Mom, what happened? Why are you home so early?" Ashley told her everything, from the situation with Mr. Walter to the humiliating dismissal. She expected understanding, but her daughter's reaction wasn't what she'd hoped for. "Mom, you did it again. Always the same thing, helping others while we struggle here at home." "Emma, it wasn't like that. It was just a coffee." "Just a coffee? Mom, you got fired. How are we going to pay the bills? The landlord has already come by twice about the late rent." The teenager wasn't wrong. Ashley had spent much of last month's paycheck helping an elderly neighbor who was sick, and now they were truly in financial trouble. "Honey, I'll find another job, don't worry. You always say that, but then someone else needs help, and you forget about us." Emma stormed off, slamming her bedroom door, leaving Ashley alone with her thoughts. Was she really being irresponsible? Was her compassion hurting her own family? That afternoon, Ashley went out job hunting. She visited every restaurant and diner in town, but word of her firing had already spread. Karen had made sure to share her version of events with the local business owners. "Look, Ashley, you're a good worker, but I can't risk trouble with someone who doesn't follow the rules," said the owner of a pizzeria where she'd applied. The response was the same everywhere. Savannah was a small town, and the words of the daughter of the most established restaurant owner carried weight. By the end of the day, discouraged and without prospects, Ashley stopped at a square near her home. There she saw Mr. Walter sitting on a bench, feeding breadcrumbs to the pigeons. "Mr. Walter," she called, walking over. The old man looked up, and she noticed his eyes seemed wearier than usual. "Hi, dear. I heard you lost your job because of me. I feel terrible." "It's not your fault. I chose to do what I did." They talked for a few minutes, and Ashley learned a little more about the man's life. Mr. Walter lived alone in a small house in Oakwood. He'd been a widower for 5 years and had a daughter who lived far away, with whom he rarely spoke. "You know, dear," he said, "some days I come downtown just to talk to someone." At home, the silence sometimes weighs too heavily. Ashley felt her heart tighten. How many lonely people were there in the city, invisible to most? "Oh, you can come to me whenever you want to talk. Now that I'm unemployed, I have plenty of time." 3 days passed and Ashley's situation only worsened. Her landlord, Donald Greer, a greedy man who owned several properties in town, appeared at her door with a stern expression. "Ashley, my patience has run out. It's been 2 months of late payments. Either you pay by tomorrow or you'll have to vacate the apartment." "Mr. Donald, I just lost my job, but I'm already looking for another. Please give me a few more days." "I don't care about your problems. Business is business. 48 hours, no more than that." Emma, who had overheard the conversation from the kitchen, stepped into the living room as soon as the man left. "Mom, what are we going to do now? We don't even have enough money to eat properly, let alone pay rent." "Sweetheart, I'll figure something out. Maybe I can find a job in another town." "And what about me? Will I have to change schools again, leave my friends?" Emma's voice trembled with anger and fear. "All because you can't stop helping others." That night, Ashley couldn't sleep. She stared at the embroidered handkerchief Mr. Walter had given her, trying to find strength. The initials WB shimmered in the dim bedroom light. There was something about the fabric that carried a sense of peace, as if it held good memories. The next morning, she decided to make one last attempt. She would look for work in Brunswick, a nearby town. Maybe there no one would know about her dismissal, and she could start fresh. As she was getting ready, she heard a strange commotion outside. There were raised voices and car engines. Curious, she went to the window and gasped at what she saw. 3 sleek black limousines were parked in front of Southern Comfort. A small crowd had gathered on the sidewalk, all eager to see who would step out of the luxurious cars. Ashley dressed quickly and hurried outside. When she got close to the restaurant, she saw an elegant woman in her 60s stepping out of the first limousine. She wore a fine dress and understated jewelry, but it was her posture that stood out most. There was a natural dignity in her movements. "Where is the waitress Ashley Wilson?" the woman asked Richard, who had rushed out of the restaurant at the sight of the limousines. Karen also appeared quickly, trying to approach the distinguished visitor with a forced smile. "How may I help you? I'm Karen Thompson, the manager of this establishment. We're a solid business and always open to major investors." The woman gave Karen a cold look and ignored her completely, turning back to the manager. "I'm looking for the waitress Ashley Wilson. I know she works here. She was let go a few days ago," Richard stammered, intimidated by the woman's presence. "Let go? Why?" It was Karen who answered, trying to justify her decision. "For inappropriate behavior. She gave away free food to beggars and challenged my authority." The woman's expression hardened further. "I see. And where can I find her?" Ashley, who had been watching from a distance, decided to step forward. Her curiosity outweighed her fear. "I'm Ashley Wilson," she said firmly. The woman turned and examined the young woman from head to toe. There was something in her eyes Ashley couldn't quite place. Maybe relief, maybe satisfaction. "My name is Dorothy Bennett. I need to speak with you urgently." "With me? But why?" Before Dorothy could answer, a man in his 40s stepped out of the second limousine. He wore an expensive suit and radiated arrogance. He hurried toward Dorothy. "Mother-in-law, what are you doing here? We've already discussed this. You can't just go out alone like this." Dorothy turned to the man with a look of disdain that made Ashley shiver. "Kevin, you don't control me. And certainly not my husband." That's when Ashley saw it. From the first limousine stepped an elderly gentleman, walking slowly with the aid of a cane. Even dressed in expensive clothes, she recognized him immediately. "Mr. Walter," she murmured in disbelief. The old man raised his eyes and smiled at seeing her. "Hello, dear. We need to talk." Kevin, the son-in-law, quickly intervened. "Dad, you're confused again. You don't know this girl. Let's go home." "I'm not confused." Walter's voice sounded firm and clear. "I've known Ashley for weeks. She's the only person who's treated me with dignity in this city." The crowd that had gathered on the street watched silently. Karen tried to butt into the conversation again. "Excuse me, but could you handle your family matters elsewhere? You're disrupting my restaurant's business." Dorothy turned to Karen with an icy expression. "Your restaurant? I thought the owner was George Thompson." "He's my father, but I manage the business, and I won't tolerate commotion at my doorstep." "How interesting," murmured Dorothy, exchanging a meaningful glance with her husband. That's when Kevin noticed Karen's presence, and a flash of panic crossed his face for a split second. Karen also seemed uncomfortable, looking away. "Karen," said Kevin, trying to sound casual. "Didn't expect to see you here." "You know each other?" asked Dorothy, her voice carrying a dangerous edge. "It's professional," Karen stammered in reply. "Occasionally business, you know how it is." Ashley watched the interaction with growing confusion. There were tensions and undercurrents she didn't understand, but she felt caught in something much bigger than she'd imagined. "Ashley," Dorothy said, turning her attention to the young woman, "you've saved my husband from humiliation multiple times, not just by paying his bills, but by treating him like a human being when others saw him as a nuisance." "I only did what anyone would do," Ashley replied, embarrassed. "No, dear, you did what a good person would do, and those are rare these days." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. Kevin tried to intervene again. "Mother-in-law, you're exaggerating. Dad has dementia. He can't tell reality from fantasy. This girl probably took advantage of his confusion to get money." "How dare you?" Ashley exploded, finally losing her patience. "I never asked for or accepted a single dollar from Mr. Walter. On the contrary, I was the one paying his bills." "Exactly," Dorothy confirmed, "and that's precisely why we're here." The lady signaled to the driver of the third limousine. A serious-looking man stepped out carrying a briefcase of documents. "This is Attorney Michael, our lawyer. He has some interesting things to show you." "Wait," interrupted Kevin, visibly nervous. I don't think this is the proper place to discuss family matters. There are too many people watching. On the contrary, Dorothy countered, I think it's exactly the right place. After all, this is where it all began. The lawyer opened the briefcase and pulled out some papers. Ms. Ashley, would you like to know why Mr. Walter came to this restaurant every day? He said it was so he wouldn't be alone at home, that he liked the company. Yes, but there was a specific reason for choosing this exact location. Walter approached Ashley, leaning on his cane. Dear, I don't have dementia. At least not the way my son-in-law likes to claim. I have some memory lapses, it's true, but my mind is clear most of the time. Then why? Because this is where I met my Dorothy 50 years ago. This restaurant was just a small diner back then, and I was a young businessman trying to win the heart of the owner's daughter. Dorothy smiled, tears in her eyes. Walter used to come here to relive our memories, and during those visits, he'd observe how people treated him. It was a kind of test. A test for what? To see who deserved our help, the attorney explained. You and Mrs. Bennett run a foundation that assists honest people in financial hardship. But they had a problem: how to identify who truly deserved support. Kevin was growing increasingly agitated. This is ridiculous, Dad's making up stories. Kevin, Dorothy said with a firmness that silenced everyone. You will stay quiet while we explain to Ashley what's going on. She turned back to the young woman. My husband is Walter Bennett, owner of a hotel chain in Georgia. Or rather, he was the owner. In recent years, he handed over the business management to our son-in-law, Kevin, who's married to our daughter, Jennifer. And Kevin did an excellent job, Walter added, his voice dripping with irony. Managed to lose nearly everything in bad investments. The son-in-law paled. Dad, you know those were circumstances beyond my control. The pandemic, the economic crisis. Yes, Kevin. Circumstances, like the $200,000 you transferred to an account under Karen Thompson's name. The silence that followed was deafening. Karen was white as a sheet, and Kevin looked like he was searching for an escape route. I don't know what you're talking about, Kevin muttered. The attorney pulled more documents from his briefcase. We have all the bank transfers here, Kevin, and the text messages exchanged between you and Mrs. Karen, planning how to siphon more money from the company. That's a lie, Karen shouted. You're trying to frame us. We don't need to frame anyone, Dorothy said calmly. You did that yourselves. Ashley was trying to process all the information. Mr. Walter was rich, and Karen was stealing money from his family? But how did you find out? She asked. 3 months ago, we started suspecting the embezzlement, Dorothy explained. We hired a private investigator to follow Kevin. That's how we discovered his frequent trips to Savannah to meet with Mrs. Karen. And that's how we learned about this restaurant, Walter added. I decided to investigate personally, but discreetly. That's why you dressed plainly and acted like you had no money, Ashley realized. Exactly. I wanted to see how I'd be treated, and the only person who treated me with dignity was you. Kevin tried one last desperate move. Even if you have proof of the transfers, that doesn't mean we did anything wrong. I might have lent Karen money for legitimate investments. Legitimate investments? Dorothy laughed bitterly. Like the beach house you bought together in Malibu. How do you know about that? The question slipped from Karen before she could stop herself. Because you weren't very discreet, the attorney replied. We have photos, receipts, and even recordings of some private conversations you had at the family hotel. The mood grew tense. Some people in the crowd began murmuring, and Ashley noticed George Thompson, the restaurant owner and Karen's father, had arrived and was watching with growing horror. Karen, called the man in his 60s, with graying hair and a face weathered by hard work. What's going on here? Dad, I can explain. Mr. Thompson, Dorothy intervened. Your father-in-law can explain better than your daughter. George approached the group, visibly confused and worried. Can someone tell me what's happening? Why are there limousines in front of my restaurant? Walter stepped forward and extended his hand to George. Walter Bennett. Perhaps you've heard of the Bennett hotel chain? George's eyes widened. Everyone in Georgia knew the Bennett chain, one of the largest in the state. Mr. Bennett, but what are you doing here? Discovering that your daughter and my son-in-law have a very close partnership. both personal and financial. George's face lost color as Dorothy and the attorney explained the situation: the bank transfers, the secret meetings, the beach house bought with money embezzled from the Bennett family business. "This can't be true," George murmured, looking at his daughter with pleading eyes. "Karen, tell me this is a misunderstanding." "Dad, She can't deny it, Mr. Thompson," said the attorney, presenting the documents. "We have irrefutable proof." George leaned against the restaurant wall as if his legs might give out. Ashley pitied the man, who was realizing the daughter he trusted was capable of betrayal and dishonesty. 20 years, George whispered. 20 years working in this restaurant to build something honest. I put you in charge because I trusted you, Karen. Dad, you don't understand. Kevin promised we'd pay the money back. It was just a temporary loan. Loan? Dorothy laughed bitterly. You bought a $500,000 house. With what money did you plan to repay it? Kevin finally decided to try a different approach. Look, I can explain everything. Yes, Karen and I were involved. My marriage to Jennifer had been failing for years, and yes, I used some company money, but I always intended to repay it with interest. And the beach house, Walter asked. It was an investment. We planned to rent it out and use the profits to replenish what was taken. Kevin, Dorothy said with forced patience, do you really think we're fools? We have records of you two spending romantic weekends there. That doesn't sound much like a rental investment. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. The situation grew tenser, and Ashley began to feel out of place in the middle of this family mess. She tried to step away discreetly, but Dorothy stopped her. Ashley, you're not going anywhere. There's much more you need to know about all this. But I have nothing to do with these problems. I just want to stay out of this mess. You have everything to do with it, Walter insisted, because you were the only person who treated me with dignity when I needed it, and now we want to repay you. Repay me how? Dorothy exchanged a glance with her husband before answering. We want to offer you an opportunity. But first, there's more you need to know. The attorney pulled more papers from his briefcase. Ms. Ashley, did you know you were observed for several weeks? Observed? By whom? By me, said a woman's voice behind her. Ashley turned and saw a woman around 50 approaching. She wore simple clothes and had a kind face. My name is Nancy. I used to work here at the restaurant until last month. Ashley recognized her. Nancy was the former cleaning staff member who had quit without explanation. Nancy, what do you have to do with this? I've been an employee of Mr. and Mrs. Bennett for 15 years. They asked me to get a job here and observe how Mr. Walter was treated during his visits. You're a spy? Ashley grew more confused. Not exactly. I'm the HR manager for the Bennett Foundation. My job was to identify genuinely good people who could benefit from our assistance programs. And you've been watching me all this time? I observed all the employees. But you were the only one who consistently showed compassion and generosity, even when it hurt you. Karen, who had stayed quiet during the explanation, exploded. This is ridiculous. You set up an elaborate conspiracy just to test restaurant employees. No, Karen, Dorothy replied coldly. The conspiracy was to uncover your affair with my son-in-law and the embezzlement. Ashley's character test was a fortunate consequence. George finally reacted to the whole situation. He approached his daughter with a look of deep disappointment. Karen, you've shamed me, shamed our family and our business. How could you do this? Dad, you don't understand. I fell in love. Love? George shook his head. You fell for a married man and helped him steal from his own family? That's not love, Karen, that's greed and dishonesty. Kevin tried to defend his lover. Mr. Thompson, Karen is as much a victim as the rest of us. I was the one who convinced her. Don't give me that nonsense, Kevin, Dorothy interrupted. The messages we intercepted clearly show Karen suggested several of the strategies to embezzle the money. The attorney confirmed with a nod. It's true. In the intercepted conversations, Ms. Karen demonstrates detailed knowledge of Bennett Enterprises' financial procedures. She was clearly not a passive victim. The crowd watching began murmuring among themselves. In a small town like Savannah, this scandal would be talked about for months. Well, Dorothy said, regaining control of the situation, now that we've settled the family matters, we can return to the main reason for our visit. She turned back to Ashley. Since you lost your job helping my husband, we feel responsible for your future. You don't need to feel responsible. I made my choice. And it was exactly that choice that impressed us, Walter said. In a world where people only think of themselves, you chose kindness toward a stranger. But there was a problem, Dorothy continued. How could we help you without it seeming like charity? You clearly have pride and wouldn't accept money without earning it. That's when we had an idea, the attorney finished. Ashley waited, her heart pounding. We want to buy this restaurant, Dorothy announced. What? George nearly shouted. Buy my restaurant? Yes, and make Ashley the new manager. A stunned silence followed. Ashley felt as if the world had stopped turning. You're serious? She whispered. Completely, Walter confirmed. You've shown solid principles, genuine compassion, and the courage to stand up for what's right. Those are rare and valuable qualities in business. But I don't know anything about running a restaurant. You understand people, Dorothy countered. And that's what makes the difference. The rest can be learned. George stepped closer, still processing the offer. Wait, you want to buy my restaurant and just hand it to her? Just like that? Not hand it over, Mr. Thompson, the attorney corrected. She would work as manager with profit sharing, and the option to fully purchase it in 5 years. That is, if she accepts, Dorothy added. Ashley looked around, seeing everyone watching, waiting for her answer. It felt like a dream, too good to be true. I can't accept this. It's charity in disguise. It's not charity, Walter said firmly. It's justice. You gave me back my dignity when no one else cared. That's priceless. Besides, Dorothy added, it's not a gift. You'll have to work hard to make this restaurant succeed. It'll be quite a challenge. Karen, who had been silently watching, finally exploded. This is unfair. I worked for years to get where I am, and this waitress is going to get everything handed to her on a silver platter. Karen, her father said, his voice heavy with sadness. You earned your position because I trusted you, and you betrayed that trust. Ashley earned hers because she showed character. Dad, no, Karen. You made your choices. Now you have to live with the consequences. Kevin tried once more to smooth things over. Look, I know I made mistakes, but I'm part of the family. We can handle this internally, without involving outsiders. Outsiders? Dorothy laughed bitterly. Kevin, you stole our trust and our money to support an affair. Ashley, on the other hand, sacrificed her own livelihood to show kindness to a stranger. Who's really family here? The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. It was then that Ashley heard a familiar voice behind her. Mom? It was Emma, who had come looking for her mother and stumbled upon this surreal scene. Sweetheart, what are you doing here? I came to find you. I was worried. But what's going on? Ashley quickly explained the situation to her daughter, watching the disbelief spread across the teenager's face. So you mean the man you always helped is rich? And now he wants to buy the restaurant and give it to you? Not give, honey. It's a job offer, an opportunity. Emma looked at the Bennetts, then back at her mother, processing everything. Mum, I'm sorry for criticizing you. I didn't understand. You don't have to apologize, sweetheart. You were worried about our finances. That's natural. But I was wrong, Emma insisted. You always knew helping others was the right thing to do. And now, it's come back to us. Dorothy smiled as she watched the interaction between mother and daughter. Ashley, your daughter is very mature for her age. That says a lot about how you raised her. She's my pride, Ashley replied, wrapping an arm around Emma's shoulders. So? Walter asked. What's your answer? Ashley looked around at everyone once more. George, who seemed more relieved than sad about selling the restaurant after his daughter's scandal. Karen and Kevin, watching with expressions of defeat and resentment. Dorothy and Walter, looking at her with expectation and kindness. And Emma, encouraging her with a smile. I accept, she said finally, but on one condition. What? Dorothy asked. That Mr. Thompson stays on as a consultant. He built this place over 20 years. It wouldn't be fair to just cut him out. George looked at Ashley in surprise and gratitude. You'd do that for me, even after how my daughter treated you. You're not responsible for your daughter's actions, and I'll need all the help I can get to learn how to run this place. Dorothy and Walter exchanged a glance of approval. Perfect, Dorothy said. George, do you accept staying on as a consultant? I do, the man replied, tears in his eyes. It'll be an honor to work with someone like Ashley. The attorney began pulling more papers from his briefcase. Then let's start drafting the contracts, Mr. Thompson. When can we meet to discuss the sale details? As the adults talked legal and financial matters, Emma moved closer to her mother. Mom, does this mean we won't have money problems anymore? It means we'll have an opportunity, sweetheart, but we'll still have to work very hard. I can help. I can work here after school, learn about management. Ashley smiled at her daughter's excitement. Slow down, Emma. First, you finish your studies, then we'll think about that. Karen approached her father one last time. Dad, I know I made mistakes, but... Karen, George interrupted gently. You're my daughter, and you always will be. But I need time to process all of this. And you need to decide what kind of person you want to be. But what will I do? Where will I work? I don't know, dear. That's a decision you'll have to make on your own. Kevin tried to approach Dorothy one last time. Mother-in-law, I know I've made mistakes, but think of Jennifer. She's your daughter. You can't just cut ties with us. Kevin, Dorothy stared at him coldly. Jennifer will always be our daughter. But you are no longer welcome in our family. And as for the embezzlement, that will be settled in court. You're going to sue me? That depends, the attorney intervened. If you voluntarily return everything you took and separate from our daughter, we might be able to reach an out-of-court settlement. And if I refuse? Then we'll see you in court, Dorothy said simply. Kevin looked at Karen, as if hoping for support, but she was focused on trying to regain her father's trust. How much time do I have to decide? 48 hours, the attorney replied. The same deadline you gave Ashley to leave the apartment. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. With the main issues settled, people began to disperse. Dorothy approached Ashley one last time. Ashley, we want you to know this isn't an impulsive decision. We've watched you for weeks and were genuinely impressed by your character. I still can't believe this is happening. Believe it, and know we'll be here to support you whenever you need. My husband and I don't have many years left, and we want to use our time and resources to help people who truly deserve it. Walter stepped forward and took Ashley's hands. Sweetheart, thank you for restoring my faith in humanity. There were days I thought kindness had vanished from the world. You don't have to thank me. Anyone would have done the same. No, Ashley, not just anyone would have done the same. That's why you're special. 2 months later, Southern Comfort had undergone a complete transformation, not just physically with renovations and upgrades, but especially in its atmosphere and service. Ashley implemented a program where, twice a week, free meals were served to those in need. She also improved employee conditions, offering fairer wages and benefits. George proved to be a valuable consultant, teaching Ashley every aspect of the business he'd learned over 2 decades of experience. Their partnership worked perfectly. Emma also got involved, helping with administrative tasks after school. She discovered a talent for numbers and organization, and Dorothy offered to fund a scholarship for her to study business in college. Walter visited the restaurant regularly, always accompanied by Dorothy. With proper medical care and his family's emotional support, his memory lapses had significantly decreased. Kevin eventually accepted the settlement, returning most of the embezzled money and agreeing to a divorce. He moved to another state, trying to start over far from the scandal. Karen attempted to reconcile with her father several times, but he kept his distance. She ended up leaving Savannah and took a job in a big city where no one knew her story. During the restaurant's reopening ceremony, Ashley gave an emotional speech to a room full of friends, neighbors, and onlookers. When I started working here 3 years ago, I never imagined I'd be in this position today. I've learned that small acts of kindness can change lives in ways we never expect. The audience applauded warmly. I want this restaurant to be more than just a place to eat. I want this to be a place where people feel welcomed, respected, and valued, no matter their social or financial status. Walter stood up from the table where he had been sitting with Dorothy. "Excuse me," he said in a firm voice that hushed the room. "I'd like to say a few words." He walked over to where Ashley stood, leaning on his cane. "For months, I came to this restaurant, not just to relive memories, but because I had lost hope in human kindness. I'd seen so much greed, so much deceit, so much indifference." His voice trembled slightly, but he continued. "Ashley gave me back more than just my mother's handkerchief, which I'd forgotten here. She gave me back my dignity and my faith in people." The room was completely silent. Today, this place is proof that kindness still exists and that it always finds a way to be rewarded. Not because the universe owes favors to good people, but because good people attract other good people. He turned to Ashley. "Thank you, my dear, for everything." The applause was long and heartfelt. Many had tears in their eyes, including Ashley. When the night ended and the last customer had left, Ashley sat at the same table where she used to serve Mr. Walter. Emma sat beside her. "Mom, do you regret anything?" Ashley thought for a moment, looking around the restaurant that was now her responsibility. "No, sweetheart. I've learned that doing good is always worth it, even when it feels like we're losing something in the process." "And now? What happens now?" "Now we work to honor the trust they've placed in us. And we keep helping people because that's what makes us happy. Even if it means giving away free food sometimes." Ashley laughed. "Especially for that, honey. Especially for that." Outside, through the window, they could see the square where Mr. Walter used to feed the pigeons. Now there was a new bench with a small plaque, in memory of all the acts of kindness that make a difference. Dorothy had suggested installing the plaque, and Ashley had agreed immediately. It was a reminder that small gestures can have big consequences. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of this story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave a sincere comment below. Do you think Ashley made the right decision? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like the video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories.